Welcome to another edition of Very Vogue with me, Val Kleinhans. We are super stoked for today's episode. Staying right here in Minnesota with Taylor Hafner. She is a content creator here, just like me, all about slow living and minimal style. Taylor, you are here because you're very Vogue. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. What brought you, I should say, to social media in the first place?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it had to be that I needed an additional outlet for my creativity. Um,
Mm,
I once I got out of college, it was just kind of, I don't know, I had this void. I was a huge music, theater, art kid in high school and then kind of into college as well. And so I don't know, I had like all this creativity that was kind of coming out of me. And because of that, I think photography was a field that I hadn't really explored much, but was super interested in. And I just enjoyed posting things. So I figured, why not make this kind of an official creative venture? And it's been so much fun.
Yeah, I totally get that. Because in college or when you're doing anything like during the daytime, I guess, for lack of a better term, sometimes you don't get that creative leeway. Sometimes it's somebody else telling you what to do and how to do it, and it just gets to be a giant snooze fest. You're like,
Right.
not about that life. So this was something that you wanted to do to just spice things up a little bit, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you just made. Like social media, when you have your own platform, is very much like it's completely under your control. And of course,
Hmm.
that goes with everything where, like, even if you're gonna do things as finite as stick to a posting schedule or things like that, people can go so many different directions with it. I know people who are operating like one person agencies, and then I know people who are just doing it purely for the creative love, and I think I fall somewhere in the middle. But
Hmm.
yeah, definitely, it's been so much fun to just kind of learn about a new field. I studied marketing in college, but not, to the extent that like social media has now. So yeah, it's been really cool.
This is a whole new version of marketing, for crying out loud. It's the
Yeah.
modern version of marketing. So it makes sense that you would see those skills. You're already looking at something you're somewhat interested in and then translate that to what's going on in the world now. Makes complete sense. I followed that too whenever I was in radio for a little bit. Like, yes, there was the on the air part of it, but there wasn't as much of the social media part when I first got into it. And then like a year or two later, it was, let's get this on Facebook, let's get this on Twitter, let's get this on Instagram, and let's find out how to use all these platforms. And I was like, okay, now we're getting a little creative. Now I'm enjoying this. And you get to play with it. You get to play with design, branding, all that fun stuff. Your
Totally.
branding, yeah, your branding or your handle, for lack of a better term, a styled sage. How did that come to be?
Yeah. So it's kind of a long story. I started my blog, which, to be honest, I don't really post that often on anymore. It's really, I stick to like Instagram and TikTok these days.
I know who
Um,
does.
right. And
Yeah.
my focus has shifted quite a bit over the years. And so when I started, I was initially going to be, kind of a fashion blogger, do a lot with like home and home decor. And then my main focus was actually going to be like self love and
Mhm.
your like self esteem, self love journey sort of stuff. So the styled part, just kind of represents the style piece. And then sage, like the meaning of that word, one of them is like wisdom.
Mm.
So I was going to be giving like sage advice on self love. Now, I still talk about that occasionally, but yeah, my content has shifted quite a bit since then as my interests have shifted. And I've just never been a niched down creator. Like you hear that all over the place. People are like, you need to niche down, you need to get super specific. And I will just never probably be that type of creator because I have too many interests and I'm constantly evolving. Like social media is constantly evolving. So I think it's so hard to stick to one thing. But yeah, that is where the name originated. And now it still feels very me. So I've kept it. Um, And yeah, it's fun. It's like it causes some confusion, I think, because sometimes people think that my name is Sage, and it's not. But yeah, it's a
That's a cute
fun
name.
handle.
I know. That's a cute name. Like I would name
It
my
is.
daughter Sage. That is kind of cute. I get
Yeah,
it.
right. No, that is a super cute name.
Well, so I love that you're experimenting with a bunch of different things. Lately, we're seeing fashion, we're seeing a little bit of travel, we are seeing bits and pieces of self love, and tips on that and advice on that from you. In the beginning, I agree. A lot of us were told so much to niche down and to pick like one thing and be like that expert in one thing, and that would make it so much easier to brand yourself. Sounds like you don't really believe in that so much now. So is it more liberating to just say this is everything I'm interested in and this is me and ta-da?
I think so. I think I have a lot more fun that way. And I talk to people all the time because burnout with this is so real. Like just
Hmm.
if you're trying to grow a platform at all, you're basically guaranteed to run into some sort of burnout. And
Yeah.
so I found myself, I was kind of running into that over and over when I was trying to stick to like one or two topics. And I kind of had a breakthrough. I want to say like probably around a year ago where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to post and share about the things that are making me really happy. And one of those things has continued to be like a slower pace of living, chatting about mental health every now and then just like romanticizing life in general is so much fun. So yeah, I think I personally find it really liberating to not necessarily limit myself. I think some
Hmm.
people find a lot of freedom in focusing on one thing, and that's fantastic. I just don't know that it, would work for me long term. So
Got it. So is burnout the catalyst for slow living?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The way that,
Tell me what your thoughts on slow living are, because some people, there's a
yeah,
million different definitions as to what it even is.
absolutely there are. Yeah. So there are people do slow living so many different ways. But for me, um, it was really a response to, yeah, like corporate capitalist burnout. I kind of look at slow living as a way of fighting back against all the ways that society tells us we're just machines and that our worth is connected to our productivity and you're only what you produce and put out or how much money you're making, whether that's for yourself or whether it's for like a corporation. So yeah, I was only a couple years into my career in corporate and I was feeling totally burnt out, um, especially like again when you pair like a creative kind of side hustle with a full-time corporate job.
Mhm.
Again, that's kind of a recipe for burnout at times. And so, yeah, to me, slow living is really just the act of slowing down, kind of no matter where you are. Like, you can still kind of be in hectic situations, but mentally taking a breather. And that takes a lot of practice. It's kind of tied to mindfulness, I think, but it goes really well with the kind of philosophy of romanticizing life because you can make like mundane moments mean a little bit more, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Makes total sense. I had to learn this one the hard way. Like, because
Yeah,
I'm one of the people that does do the full-time thing in addition to the fun stuff, the creative stuff, like what we're doing now. This is what I
yeah,
do in my off time. And then like an hour ago, I got off work and now I'm here. But like
exactly.
there's a lot that happens when you've got all of that on your plate because and it depends on how seriously you take it for or how whatever you want to call it. But like I'm somebody that definitely wants to grow the brand, grow the podcasting. So I put a lot of time into it, and sometimes to my own detriment. Like I had to sit down and say, you know what, the full-time job is going to be what it is. The hours for that, they're not going to change, but I can make changes in my own life to be a little bit more balanced outside of that. Were you seeing the
Absolutely.
same thing and maybe learning the same thing?
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely say so. Like even back before COVID, I was going into an office every day. And it's like when you have to do that, you kind of, you have your commute time, you have, um, added things that can make a day feel even more hectic. And so for me, it would be like, okay, I'm gonna really try and like not look at my phone while I'm eating breakfast, or
Mm.
I'm going to like take 10 minutes to really enjoy my cup of coffee or tea before I leave. Those kinds of things. Like if I was on my way to work, I was, um, at the time I was taking public transportation. So it's like, I'm going to like look out the windows and actually like visually almost participate in what's going on around me. Um, and so those were just little ways that at the time they're so small and like it sounds so inconsequential, but yeah, those things really do add up. And I personally found that I had a lot more like joy and a little bit more mental space for other things then when I approached life that way.
Got it. That's the best part about public transportation too, is looking out the window. Are you kidding me?
It
I
really
don't care. Like, I don't care if I have headphones on or not. I want to look out the window and watch what's going on. I can't believe how many deer I count in like a single morning. I'm like,
oh
oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh. Like, and they're just hiding, they're just creeping out. And then boop, if you pay close enough attention, you might see like 10 in one morning. And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's the best.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You post a lot about romanticizing your life, and I think you just alluded to one way that you do it. How else can we do that? How else can we just truly fall in love with the life that we have?
Oh, that is such a great question. I think you can't really be a great romanticizer of life if you're not also practicing optimism.
Mm,
Um, for me, the whole concept of romanticizing your life actually, I think, comes from like experiences I had as a kid where, I grew up in a home that wasn't always 100% happy or safe, even sometimes. And so,
mm,
it's actually a skill that I feel like I really learned from my mom. And it's kind of just making the best out of a situation, no matter what the situation is. You can make a good situation better. You can make a bad situation okay, potentially. Um, and I do think it really connects to that kind of mindfulness piece, that slowing down, taking in everything around you. And it often, for me, what it looks like is doing these kind of extra or seemingly frivolous things, but they end up turning a moment into like an occasion.
mm.
So one of my favorite ways actually to encourage people to romanticize their life is to like use the best of what you have, like use your quote unquote good things. That can be, if you have china that you keep in a cabinet all year, use it. Don't let it just sit there, because what's the point? Like we can't take it with us. Um, I love to use this one really, really expensive fragrance that I have that was kind of a splurge. And instead of like saving it up for however long,
Mhm.
I try and use it fairly frequently because that way I can enjoy it. And it's sort of, we don't know how long we're going to be here either. So, I mean, you can make it kind of that big of a meaning if you want, but those that's one of my favorite kind of pieces of advice as far as romanticizing things.
Just taking advantage of what you already have, whatever it is, and making the most of it. I do the same thing with fragrances too. I've got YSL Libre in my bedroom, along with like the replica by the fireside or by the woods, by the
Oh,
fireplace. That
I
one.
love that one.
That smells like autumn leaves, and I will just all day.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like it is absolutely the best. But you're right, little treats like that make all the difference sometimes. Or whenever you have like I just call them a yes queen shower, where I'm talking like the full scrub down. It's a hair wash day. It's also skincare day. Like you're
Yes.
scrubbing full scrub in the shower, then you're out, then come the serums, then come the oils, the full skincare routine. I'm like, those types of showers, I live for those. Those are the
Yes.
best.
Amazing. And yeah, like romanticizing will probably look different to all sorts of people because, yeah, some of us get very into like the self-care side of things. Other people, might find doing that all the time to be a little intimidating. And so I don't know, I like that you can kind of tailor it to your lifestyle too. And it is a bit of a journey, like figuring out what is worth it to you and what, um, is something that you can live without. I think a lot of people go to nature to romanticize. That's certainly another thing that I do. And that's also a really accessible way to do it too. Like the last thing I want to do, as passionate as I am about this, is like be constantly plugging luxury products that are, you know,
Yeah,
way out
yeah.
of like people's price ranges, or telling people that they need like a bunch of items in order to be able to do this. Sometimes it's as easy as just, again, like staring out the window or stepping out into nature.
Hmm. Making the most of what you have and being real about it. I loved the photos. Hannah was talking to me about your trip to Paris earlier this year too,
Oh
and I
yeah.
love the photos. I love the photos from it, and it was so freaking adorable. But yes, I realize that you guys definitely got some content out of that trip, but it looked like a fun girls trip too. That's what I'm talking about. You taking those opportunities and making them not just memories, but you can sometimes maybe turn them into content as well. Do a little bit of both if that's what makes you happy. But regardless, just take advantage. How was Paris for you? What were your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, I had so much fun. I still sit here and I can't really believe that it happened. Like that it's one of those like the trip actually left the group chat situations.
Yes.
Yeah, so for me, I feel so lucky because it was my return trip to Paris. I studied abroad for a few days there in college, and um, I don't I'd say I'm conversational in French, kind of at an intermediate learning level, but I got to use the language a lot when I was there. And that was one of those things that um, definitely, like for me, that was an aspect of it, you know, just being a trip. That has nothing really to do with content. Um, but again, it was like taking advantage, taking the opportunity to practice the language with people.
Mm.
And that was like something that I can't like that's priceless, right? So yeah, oh my gosh, Paris was incredible.
It does. It sounds like a dream. It's on my bucket list. But the only French I know is from like the stuff I get, the little bits that I get on Hockey Night in Canada or whatever. Like I don't know much more than ce soir, but
I mean, that's useful.
sometimes I guess. But like no, I that's another thing I definitely want to do is like study languages more. It's especially Spanish because I feel like there's more and more of a need for that.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's funny because I found like a real love for languages this year. Like I right now I'm studying a few on Duolingo, but none of them have like super practical use in Minnesota. So
Mm.
definitely support Spanish because I don't think I have really any Spanish. So
I
maybe
have
I need to
so
wrap that
little.
up. But
Yeah. I have such little span. I did 2 semesters of it in college and I did like 9 weeks of it in the 8th grade. So I have like very little bits I can do, very basic. And then I did an internship in LA one summer in college and I was like, oh no, like I really needed this and I should
oh,
have paid more attention. But
yeah, I
just
know languages can be tough too. I honestly, that's something I wish we prioritized more in the States because,
yeah.
like, you know, you think about it and it's like, oh, we could all be speaking like three or four by now if we really wanted to.
They do in Europe. And I get
I know,
why, because everything for them, the proximity to another country is like what another state would be for us. So it's like necessary
right?
because you don't
Totally.
know where you're going to be and you don't know who you're going to run into, and everybody's that close together already. Who knows?
That's
Maybe
so
someday.
true. Yeah, I know. I believe in us.
So I know you're a reader too. What have you been reading lately?
Oh my gosh. I have been rereading the Bridgerton series.
Oh,
Yeah, so back when that show came out, my mom was super excited because she has read the books for many years, and I'd never gotten into them before. But yeah, I think with like there's so much hype right now about when season three is going to come out,
mhm.
that I was like, you know what, I'm going to give those a reread. So I think I'm partway through. Um, let's see, what else have I been reading? I'm super into like fantasy. So I've actually been rereading some Game of Thrones too lately. Um, yeah, I tend to stick to like the historical, fantasy, romancy type books. Really like anything that provides a sense of escapism is really
Yeah,
it for me.
I completely get that. I don't, do we know when season 3 is coming? I don't know that we have a release date. I don't
So
know.
yeah, it's been moved back. I think initially they had said it was going to be Christmas Day, so
Mhm.
upcoming in like a couple weeks. And I think now word on the street is that we might have to wait until May. So
Boo. Yeah.
I know, I
I
know.
know. I'm
I don't know what Netflix is doing there, but
they're worried about the crown right now, I think. I'm still working my way through that.
probably. Yeah, that's another show that I enjoy.
It's so good. That and the like reality TV versions. I guess I'll just
Ooh.
say that they've been doing things like Selling Sunset or Love is Blind or like that.
I still haven't seen Selling Sunset, but I've seen a lot of TikToks of people
Yeah.
like, acting it out essentially.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it does look like a lot of fun.
It's just ridiculous. Like if you don't take it seriously, you could just laugh at it because it's like these ridiculously priced houses in like a gorgeous area. You know you'll never be able to afford one, but everybody's like talking about it like it's so common and it's almost comical to me that they're treating it
Yeah,
like it's this thing that's so attainable. And I'm like, what? It's
I
just
don't
it's
know a single
ludicrous.
person who could afford that. Yeah.
Oh, I can't a $5 million house, $10 million house, 20.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I'm just like, good God, the pricing on some of this stuff, like that's what fascinates me. It's almost like the opposite of like Chip and Joanna. Like they
Oh,
tend
yeah.
to make things a little bit more affordable. This is almost like the other way around. Like this is stuff that just seems so unattainable that it's like unbelievable. And I get a
That is
kick
such a good point. Yeah, it really is the opposite.
out. Well, I love to read like autobiographies or biographies written, by somebody else. I read a lot of those, particularly from
Yeah.
like the rock stars that I like. And
Ooh,
then,
that's so cool.
yeah, I like to read those. Sometimes I like to read a little bit of sci-fi and definitely horror. Like I still have the original Dracula and Frankenstein like in my room. The Bram
Oh, that's
Stoker, Mary
cool.
Shelley version, like yeah. So
Yeah. Oh,
those are that's kind of my wheelhouse right there. But man, I want to read more because it is relaxing. There is something to it.
totally. And like I am even it's funny because we have like book talk and bookstagram and all these creators who focus solely on books and are reading like 5 billion books a year, I feel.
I
Um,
know.
it's like a wonder. But I am a huge like rereader. So if I read a
Hmm.
book, it's like odds are I will be coming back to it in a few months or so. And then I have books that I'll like reread on an annual basis. So as we're getting into winter, I will probably reread Jane Eyre, because
Ah,
that's just
okay.
such like a good wintry book. But yeah, it's that's like reading is another thing where I'm kind of like, you don't have to make an accomplishment out of it because I think some people do, and you could
Mhm.
absolutely can, but you can also just kind of stick to what you like and use that as like a form of escapism from stress from your day job or whatever it be. Yeah, but I love reading.
Totally. Would you do some sort of book series or a bookstagram type thing?
That's a great question. I might actually. I have a lot of books that I feel kind of correspond to like a certain season. And honestly, like living seasonally is kind of a really fun aspect of the kind of slow living, what's the word I'm looking for? Like philosophy that I really
Yeah,
find a lot of fun in. And so, yeah, maybe something connected to like books for each season and getting kind of in like the seasonal mood. That might be really fun.
that would be cool. I would love that.
Yeah.
What else is coming from you? What else can we look forward to coming from you?
Ooh, great question. I think right now I'm focusing a lot on winter. Not even the holidays necessarily, but like I look past winter, being in Minnesota, being in the Midwest, it's winters are so long and
Yeah.
it it's a trial sometimes, like just
Yeah.
mental health wise finding your joy can be kind of difficult. And so last year, actually, I dedicated a lot of time to trying to find ways that I could romanticize winter as a person who kind of hates it. So you can definitely look forward to some more content on how to survive the rest of the winter because it definitely gets tough after the holidays. And
Mhm.
yeah, like I'm already so excited for spring as well. So there'll probably be some more style content coming along with both of those as well. Um, yeah, I've kind of been going through like a style evolution lately. So I don't know what words to quite put on it, but I am like really falling in love with the kind of cottagecore style. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens there.
No, it's cute, and honestly, Taylor Swift did it. She's a perfect example of how to do it really well, I think. So many
Yeah.
her with if that's what you're going for, so many good ideas from her lately, I think, in that realm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not that big of a Swiftie, so I might have to check it out though for the cottagecore
I know.
vibes.
See, I am and I'm not. It's weird. Like the hits, yeah, I'll not belong to them, but I mean, there are people who have like every freaking album, every vinyl, every, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know
Oh
about
no.
that. I'll reserve that for like my hard rock and heavy metal and like hip hop love, but
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I feel like
I get
everybody
it.
has their thing. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, Taylor Swift is their like musical thing. Um, yeah, I think maybe mine would be like Fleetwood Mac. Like I'd go nuts over all of that. Like
Stevie's an
um
icon.
an icon and just yeah, I all I can say is the vibes. Like the vibes are immaculate all the time.
Immaculate. The black flowy, the shawls, the boots, the top hat sometimes. Like
Right.
just yeah, I would do that all day, every day.
Yeah. Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me, Taylor. Thank you for your bits of wisdom and thank you for spending some time with me.
Thank you so much, Val, for having me. This was wonderful.